Good evening. I am just going to. Okay. All right. So I am just going to start now. Just checking up on the setting. Can somebody please put it down in the chat box that you can hear me clearly? I'll just wait till then. Yes? Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you so much for letting me know. So, hi everybody, good evening. I hope you're all doing well. For those of you who don't know me, I am Zinnia Bhorucho. I am a holistic psychologist and a relationship counselor here at Illuminations. And for people who have been joining in the webinars, thank you so much for joining in again. So today's workshop and topic is all about inner child and understanding, the inner child, understanding the concept of inner child and then slowly working on that. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to gradually first and foremost explain the concept of inner child, make each one of you understand why we're doing what we're doing today, and then slowly, we'll move on to the question answer bit, and post that then we'll move on to the experiential part. Okay. So each one of us in life, we have all experienced different situations, different circumstances, different events that have happened with each one of us. While all of us have experienced, the positives towards things and towards, good things, we all experience them. But on the flip end, we've also experienced, a lot of us have experienced negative circumstances or adverse situations or things that are not completely in our control. Okay. So in those moments, those situations, those experiences that we've had, they tend to shape us up, they tend to influence our personality in ways that we cannot understand, and they shape us up to become the individual that we become, and they also shape our perception. So the way we perceive things, the way we look at things, they influence that as well. All right. Now, the inner child is that aspect within each one of us that tends to get either frozen or tends to get stuck up in time, or tends to stay put in that particular situation. And every single time, as we're moving ahead, as our system is moving ahead, we need more energy every single time to make that inner child function, and to make that inner child we need more energy to put into that inner child so that that inner child can survive. So the inner child is that particular aspect. Now, none of us have just one single inner child. There are multiple inner children that we all tend to experience from time to time.
How are you?
Hi, can you please mute yourself so that when I ask questions, you can then go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay, so like I was saying, there are multiple inner children or multiple versions within each one of us. So, for example, the 13-year-old you that tended to have a disagreement or, an argument with her mother or his mother. And, that version, the 13-year-old, will tend to stay stuck in that time frame, in that situation, no matter what. Even if you're now currently 33 years old, or even if you are now currently 35 years old, the 13-year-old you is still stuck. It's still frozen in that time frame, and it needs energy to survive. It needs help in order to move ahead, and it needs something so that it can grow ahead. Now, in order for it to do that, we as the present adult, we need to keep supplying energy. This is something that we tend to do unconsciously, so we don't even realize that we're doing that, but a lot of our energy tends to go in helping these versions, these stuck versions of us survive and move ahead, and sort of go ahead in the process. Now, because we are utilizing more energy from our system, it tends to deplete us in our body currently. It tends to, bring about mood swings within us. It tends to bring about, eating pattern shifts. For some of us, we tend to have sleeping pattern shifts. So for every single individual, the differences arise depending on how we are using our energy to help our inner child or inner children that are stuck up in different time zones, in different situations, move ahead. Now, it is very important for each one of us to understand that these inner children that are stuck up or that are frozen in that specific time frame or that time zone, they tend to get triggered in such similar situations. So, for example, continuing with the previous example, so the 13-year-old girl or boy who had that argument with his or her mother and tended to feel, hurt or upset because of that. Now, that 13-year-old girl or boy, even though currently is 33 years old or 35 years old, if as the 33 or the 35-year-old, somebody that reminds them of their mother or somebody that has similar characteristics, a personality, or somebody who's even the same age group as their mom or an authoritative figure in their workplace, will tend to get triggered if that authoritative figure or somebody in the same age gap as their mother or somebody who has that similar personality as their mother tends to scold them, or they tend to have an argument, and they will tend to react or respond or behave in the same way that they did as the 13-year-old, simply because the 13-year-old is now getting triggered, is now getting affected. Okay, so to take another example, for example, at 18 years of age, you had your first romantic relationship and you got jilted by your partner or whoever it was that you were dating. Now, cut to your 40 years old and your partner, jilts you again, and you go through a massive breakup. The 18-year-old you that was traumatized in that time with his or her partner leaving them is still getting triggered even though you are 40 years old now. So it's very important for us to understand these different versions, these different aspects within ourselves that have become triggered because of whatever situation, whatever experience, whatever traumatic incident we have encountered. Not only that, after awareness is the first step, but after that awareness, it is important for us to start working on these aspects, so to help these aspects heal, to help these aspects release that pain, release that trauma, to help these aspects release out the wound, to help these aspects vent out, express out everything that it is that's making them stuck, so that gradually we help these aspects finally heal and move ahead. And then slowly, we integrate those aspects. And finally, after those aspects are healed and integrated, so for example, we work with your 18-year-old version, carrying forward with the same example, the one that was traumatized with his or her partner leaving her. After adequate healing has happened, after adequate resolution has come forward, the 18-year-old will not get so adversely triggered. So for example, the next time you go through a similar situation or a somewhat similar situation, or some sort of breakup, then it will not affect you, it will not trigger you in the same manner that it did trigger you as the 18-year-old. Doesn't mean that, of course, you won't feel sad or upset. Of course, you will, because that's human nature, but your way of response will not be so adverse, it will not be so intense, and it will not affect you so much. You will be able to see things as a more objective individual, as a third party person, in a more neutral manner. So that's why it's very important to understand the inner child aspect within you, to get awareness about the inner child aspect, and then to slowly help the inner child aspect heal as well. So, does anyone have any questions so far? If so, please let me know. Is inner child connected to being childish? Yes. As a matter of fact, there can be an inner child that is, not been, or that has not been able to experience whatever he or she wanted to as that child, or has not been able to experience that entire happiness as the child. And so the childishness is one such aspect that can get triggered, and it, carries forward in different aspects. So yes, childishness can be a part. um there are some other questions as well. How to recognize the inner child. So, like I told you, different inner children can get formulated in different aspects or situations each one of us have had. Okay, so today the process that we're going to do slowly and gradually is going to help each one of you understand one such inner child or one such aspect that you feel, you need to work on, that you feel, is intense. And that is how you're not only going to get awareness, not only will you identify, but you'll also be able to work on that inner child till a major extent today. Okay. Hi ma'am, can the inner child in a person cause emotional issues as adults? Definitely, the inner child in an individual can lead to massive emotional issues. That is the reason why I mentioned, an individual can have mood swings. I have dealt with clients who have had such traumatic inner children that they break down, just like that, or, their mood flips massively. And because of emotional issues, it affects their behavior and their response and the way they communicate and interact with a lot of people as well. So definitely an inner child can affect you emotionally, an inner child can affect you mentally as well. And because the inner child is affecting you emotionally and mentally, it will have adverse results and effects on the body. So doesn't mean that an inner child is always traumatic. Majority of the times we are dealing and working with traumatic inner children, but simultaneously each one of us have also positive inner children that tend to boost us, that tend to help us. So for example, if you have a positive inner child wherein you scored really well in the exams, then that happy inner child will help you, push you to score better, to work more competitively in the workspace as you grow older, to achieve what you want to. So, inner children can work in different ways. But the point is that we work with the traumatized inner children so that when they're healed, they can help us act out just like those positive inner children in a more progressive manner. Okay, there are some more questions. How to, okay, at my age of 54, I am still very childish. Is it normal? I have had clients who are 65 years of age and they still feel, childish. Now, being childish is a very subjective term. If you can give me an example, as to how you define your childishness, and also if you feel that the childish behavior is affecting you in any manner. If it is affecting you in any manner, then we need to look at it. If you feel that in general, you're childish, then there could be an inner child that, wants some attention and care and has not received that. I'm just saying on the surface. I'm not saying that this is the only reason. This could be one of the aspects as to why the childishness might be coming out. Okay. Um, if emotional issues are not addressed on time, can it cause major mental illness in later years? This is an excellent question. Thank you so much for highlighting that. Yes, if emotional issues are not highlighted at the right time, they tend to affect us mentally. Our body tends to go, in a way of stress. Our body tends to act out and our body tends to go in a hyper alert mode, and the system tends to, the sympathetic system, which is a part of the autonomous nervous system, tends to, help the body act out just the way we act in an emergency. So pupils will dilate, blood will flow in much faster. There will be this surge of energy that will come in. All of that will happen as well. Now, if your body is not able to relax the right way at the right point of time, it will affect you, leading to a possibility of an illness. It will affect you, leading to a possibility of a mental health issue. It can affect you in various different ways as well. So yes, it could be one of the causes if not addressed fast. What about not remembering much of childhood and trying to blot the past out? Parents divorcing catches up with you as a grow up. Yeah. So, not remembering your childhood is a strong, sure indication a lot of times that the childhood has been extremely traumatic and your mind is trying to suppress and your mind is trying to push it aside in order for it to survive. This is a defense mechanism, where your mind is helping you, move ahead. And often, as an adult, when there are similar situations or circumstances, the memories that are suppressed, they tend to get triggered up faster. And that's how, that memory is recollected back, and we tend to remember that. So, a great way of working with, the past, and you've mentioned that divorced parents and all of that catching up, so a great way to work with that is to deal with the emotional trauma that you experienced as that child when you saw your parents separating, divorcing, and getting affected. Now you might end up saying that as an adult, you're okay with it now and it doesn't affect you. Fair enough, it might not be affecting you now as an adult. However, that young version that was affected at that tender age is still stuck up there in that time frame, in that time zone, that needs intense help. So I would make a personal suggestion that let's talk a little bit more in detail post this, and I can help you out at a more personal level. Why a divorce at the age of 23 is called inner child? No, so a divorce at the age of 23 is not called an inner child. What is it that led to the divorce at the age of 23? There could be an affected inner child. See, we need to understand the concept of inner child. The inner child is the aspect within us that is getting stuck in that situation as we are experiencing it. It is not the inner child, that is in that. So the inner child is not defining, is not the definition of the situation. It's the one that's experiencing. It's that version of you that's actually going through whatever it went through when you were that age. So we need to help that version heal. We need to help that version release the trauma, and we need to help that version move ahead. Okay. So even before the age of 23, there could be different versions that led to whatever it is that you experienced. Given the really intense times in the last 8 months or so, any suggestions as to keep these traumatic times from infecting the rest of my life? Yeah, that's precisely the reason why I'm doing this session today, because the last few months have been really intense for a majority of us, and these times have tended to trigger us in more ways than we can understand. And they brought on the surface undealt issues that we had been pushing under the carpet for so long. So the exercise that we're going to do today in the end will help you deal with that in a really good manner, and will help you work on that in a really good manner. And post that, you can still practice the exercise from the comfort of your home. And if you still feel that you need more help, you can connect in with me here at the center at GLT, and that will really also help. um If an individual suppresses his or her thoughts for a long time, there are chances of them venting out as they age with a lot of behavioral issues. How can we help them to understand they need help since they resist to seek therapy. Okay, so it really depends who this individual is. Often people don't tend to listen to their own family members or close friends, even though they know that they're saying it for their good. So what you can do is, you can give that individual similar examples of influential people or people who are in that individual's place, going through the same situation, and they've sought help and therapy and how it's helped them. That is also a good way to make the person understand. Also, the part that you mentioned, that when you tend to suppress, there are chances of them getting triggered. I just want to let you know that that the chances are max. So for all of us, as we tend to suppress, the more the suppression, the more the eruption that we will experience at a later stage of time. It's just a matter of time, and it's just a matter of various situations and incidents we encounter that tend to trigger us off. So different triggering points or elements will tend to bring out that eruption more. So it's like a spring. The more you try and suppress the spring, the more it's going to bounce back. Just a matter of time. Ways to start healing my abandoned wounds and emotional trauma. Like I mentioned earlier, this exercise that we're going to do in the end is an excellent way to help you work with yourself. But the question you've asked is a little on the general level or not. If you can give me a little bit more detailed understanding of what is the emotional trauma, what is the abandonment exactly about, we can center it accordingly. So wait till you do the exercise, wait till you experience it, and then let me know at a later point of time. You can connect in with me also after that, or you can put down a question here, and that will give us more clarity. You mean if my inner child is traumatized and not addressed, then my teenage or adult traumas add to it? That's not what I mean. What I mean to say is that the inner child is the version that's getting affected in that specific situation. It tends to stay frozen and it tends to act out in that situation. So for it, the intensity of that trauma just keeps on happening and happening and happening. As you keep moving ahead as an adult, of course, you experience different situations. If there is a similar situation that's similar to the past, then that similar situation acts as a trigger and influences or affects it more. Okay. And at that point of time, the inner child, the one that's still stuck up, is the one that will act out even in the current situation. So it will influence you as the current adult without you even realizing that it's influencing you, which is why it is so important for us to help your traumatized, hurt, unresolved, unhealed inner child finally heal, so that the inner child can move ahead. I hope that makes it clear. Why does someone who is successful in the workplace and people around him can be different with their partners? Does it have to do with their inner child emotionally? So this is not a prerequisite that somebody who's successful in their career will always act out differently with their partner. Yes, however, there could be an inner child that's affected emotionally, an inner child that's abandoned, an inner child that's not been able to communicate, an inner child that has seen his parents not expressing and has developed that perception and belief that this is how you show your sense of love or comfort. You'll have to tell me a little bit more about the personality of that specific individual in order for me to give you a specific answer, because this is a very specific question. But there could be a lot of reasons. Yes, definitely an inner child that's playing out. But what is the inner child? What is the situation? If you give me a little bit more clarity, I can help you out in a little bit more depth. Okay. What if my mom was the reason behind low self-confidence? I am 33, still struggling with this. So it's important to understand that different people, who have acted in different ways, have influenced us and affected us and traumatized us. You're 33 years old, right? But you still feel that, it's because of your mother that the low self-confidence is coming up. I'm sure that's the case. But what we need to focus on is we need to target that inner child that's still facing that low confidence as that young child, as that young kid. And the minute we deal with him or her, that's when you're going to get that lost confidence back within you. That's when you're going to understand who you are as a individual, and that's when you'll understand your real personality. So I hope that makes things clear. So today's exercise will help you out. Since this is a specific situation, I would request you to focus on that. See where it's taking you. Is a sign of an unhealed inner child repeating the same behaviors. For example, returning to abusive relationships or being triggered in different workplaces by stress. This is an excellent question, and it's amazing insight that you've received. Yes, an unhealed inner child, a traumatized inner child, will most often and always create similar repetitive patterns and will make you unconsciously become prey of those repetitive patterns. So toxic relationships, getting abused, feeling like a victim, or being the manipulator, or I don't know, resorting to more addictive behavior or substance use. Similar patterns that you get affected into, that you get caught up, are usually because there are triggered inner children that are unhealed and that need intense help. So definitely we need to look here, we need to work here, and we need to help these inner children heal. Otherwise, similar repetitive patterns of trauma, similar repetitive patterns of abuse will just continue more and more without us realizing, of course. Um, After receiving treatment or therapy, will we stop attracting those patterns? Precisely, yes. That's the reason why I am suggesting therapy, because when you're doing therapy, especially inner child healing, you're not only helping that inner child vent and release. So the catharsis happens definitely, but you're helping the inner child get the required insight that your inner child needs. You're helping the inner child get the closure that your inner child needs. Okay, and that's when the inner child is going to heal. That's when the inner child is going to get the awareness and insight that I don't need to continuously experience such toxic patterns, such abusive relationships, or whatever it is. I don't need to be a part of this cycle anymore. I can create a harmonious relationship, or I can be a part of a more loving relationship. And that's how the cycle breaks finally. What about narcissistic behavior in relationships? How is it developed? See, narcissism is a specific behavioral trait that tends to develop, not just in a relationship per se, but it's there within the individual as a child. Now, the reason why you become a narcissist could be multifold, depending on the personality of the person. I would require a detailed case history to understand why the individual is acting out as a narcissist. But usually, highly intense traumatic situations, not feeling loved, accepted, feeling abandoned are major triggering points leading a person to become or act out as a narcissist. Apart from that, there could be other mental health related issues as well. So, it's an amalgamation of a lot of aspects. In a relationship, if an individual is acting out as a narcissist, I would, suggest or state that the person has felt extremely emotionally abandoned, has felt, wrongly perceived, and that's why they tend to act out in such a manner that they are the ones who are at a supreme level. So in a way, they're trying to control the relationship so that they don't experience the same thing again. Is personality disorder associated with suppression of expressing as a child? Could be. Again, depends on what sort of personality disorder this is. I would, tell each one of you a very important thing, that who we are and what we're shaped up as individuals, and our personality is, something that tends to take place over a number of years. So it's very difficult to identify it as simply as just suppression. It could be a lot of other factors. So it could be, a lot of interaction that's happened from the external environment, so from our friends, family, parents. And it could be a lot of interaction that we've internalized from the external environment, as in beliefs that we've generated within ourselves, limiting beliefs such as I'm unloved, I cannot accomplish, I'm good for nothing, or things like that. These could also, an amalgamation of the two can also lead into personality disorders. Yes. Coming to your point, suppression could definitely be one of the triggering factors, but it's not always the major triggering factor or aspect. As a therapist for you, what's the significance of 2020? I have lived with inner child all my life, but why only this year it's acting out? See, inner children tend to act out in every single year. It's just that whatever situation you've experienced in 2020, that has tended to trigger you off more, and that's brought in the awareness. So the inner child was always there within you. Okay, you are finally aware that there's an inner child within you that's needing help. The problem is not the inner child. The thing that each one of us need to understand is that we need to work on our inner child. We need to help our inner child heal. Because let's not forget, at the end of the day, the inner child is our very own aspect that needs healing, that needs care, that needs affection. It's our very own aspect that can shift from acting out in an adverse manner to a harmonious inner child. Okay, each one of us has the power and capability to shift our inner child the way we want it to. We simply need to take the right steps. We simply need to get awareness. And in some cases, if it is really intense, if it's happening since many years, and the intensity is high, you need professional therapeutic help, because the inner child can be really manipulated. It can be difficult for you to work with it just by yourself. So self-help books, exercises are important, they're crucial, they're helpful. But if it's something that you've been experiencing for example, for 5 years, more than 5 years, if it's in terms of a mental illness, if you feel it's adversely affecting you in your personality, you tend to act out, or you've got awareness that you're being stuck in these continuous cycles, then you need professional help or therapeutic help. Okay. um can we do inner child healing surrogately? I mean, we can see a loved one struggle with patterns of inner child wounds but don't understand or not ready for healing. Can we do it on behalf of them? We need to understand this, that it is the specific individual that is getting affected. Okay, as an outside person and as a third person, yes, you can identify the patterns that they are stuck in. If they are showing resistance, often a neutral person coming in the picture will help them understand and will help them bring about the openness. You doing it on behalf of them, usually surrogate therapy for inner child doesn't work that much, simply because it's the individual that has experienced it. So it's important for the individual to re-experience, it's important for the individual to release the trauma so that the individual can move ahead. You doing it on behalf of the person, it's you coming in through your perception, your beliefs, and your experiences. So for example, Taking the previous example, if your friend is at the age of 18 jilted by their lover, you doing it on behalf of your friend is not going to work out that much, simply because you have no idea as to what extent your friend has held on firmly to that belief, that emotion, and the feeling with it. So it's important for your friend to actually go through it so that they can release it from the very core. Okay. Any other questions at all? These are great questions, by the way. Thank you so much. It gives a lot of people a lot of clarity. Introverts don't talk much or socialize, causing a lot of anxiety issues. Do they need to be treated for anxiety issues or the childhood trauma they've experienced? Which one needs to be addressed first? First of all, this is a massive generalization that a lot of people tend to do. Introverts don't usually have anxiety issues. In this entire world, people are of two types, as a matter of fact, three types: extroverts, introverts, and ambiverts. Now, introverts are not just people who have anxiety issues, they just take some more time opening up, but when they do open up, they're great, people who can communicate and converse really well. They are just a little bit choosy about who they prefer to open up. Now, stating that all introverts could have anxiety issues is a massive, generalization that I would not request you to do. However, you have said, do they need to be treated for anxiety issues or the childhood trauma they've experienced? Which one needs to be addressed first? Depends on who the person you're talking about. If there's a specific individual, how have you, generalized or come to the conclusion that they are facing an anxiety issue, and what childhood trauma are you talking about? I need a little bit more specific explanation from your end in order for me to help you out. Okay, last question, and after that we'll start off with the experiential bit, and post that I'll be taking more questions, don't worry. Any other questions? Okay, if not, then I'm going to request each one of you to sit back, please, make yourselves comfortable, and we're going to start with the experiential bit. Like I told you, this is an experiential exercise. It's an important exercise that's going to help each one of you understand your inner child. This will be addressing one inner child aspect, okay? And whenever, whatever clarity or awareness you get post that, if you need, more understanding, more clarity, you can always ask questions after the experience, okay? So just sit back, make yourselves comfortable, and start taking in deep breaths. Breathe in through your nose, exhale out through your mouth, completely relax. Okay? Continue with your deep breaths. As you're breathing in through your nose. Allow your breath to go in as deep as it possibly can. As you're exhaling out, let go through your mouth. And slowly inform yourself. Just talk with yourself, keeping your eyes shut. For those of you who are doing this for the first time, inform yourselves that today I'm taking the first step towards understanding myself and my inner child the right way. And just reflect back over your life really fast, really speedily, over all these years, from the time that you have been a child till the current you, the one who's listening to me express this out. And as you're reflecting back over the years, what is that one dominant emotion or expression you feel that has been affecting you, okay, that you sense has been affecting you, has been disturbing you in a negative manner? That one emotion, okay, or feeling. Can be anything, can be sadness, can be anger, can be fear, anything. The minute you identify that, see what aspect of your life is it connected with. So for example, you've identified it's sadness. Is it sadness connected with your career? Is it sadness connected with your personal life? Is it sadness connected with your communication? Whatever it is, okay? And once you've identified that, please put it down in the chat box and allow yourself to focus on that specific emotion and that specific situation connected with that emotion. For those of you who might feel that you're experiencing a lot of emotions and a lot of situations connected, a lot of aspects in your life connected with those emotions, narrow it down to one emotion and that one connected aspect with that emotion. Continue with your deep breaths. Take your time. I'm going to wait for a few minutes to allow each of you to put down this feeling. Okay, sadness, feeling abandoned. The situation is abandonment. Perfect. Feeling not enough. If you can identify the situation with it, that would be great. Grief, my wants not being understood and fulfilled. Perfect. Focus on that. Injustice, neglect. All right, fair enough. Racism, confidence, not being able to communicate. Okay. Low self esteem. Okay, can you target the low self esteem with whatever situation it is? That will really help as well. Sadness, being invisible. All right, sure. So each of you, as you're putting it down, remember what you are facing and experiencing and focus on that. Limiting my true self. Okay, limiting your true self, but what's the emotion you feel with it? You need to mention the emotion. Allow yourself to experience the emotion today. Okay. What if it shows up in many situations? Absolutely. So, what is the major situation that's occupying highest intensity? Highlight that situation for today. Okay, I'm going to wait for one last minute. Selfless. Okay. What situation and what do you mean exactly by selfless? What if it's a sensation but can't say an emotion? So you're getting there, but there are still defenses. You need to tell me the sensation so that I can help you reach the emotion. And usually behind the sensation, there's always a hidden emotion. Just means that the emotion is really intense. Giving too much for others, giver, not a taker. Absolutely. So you being a giver, not taking, how does that make you feel? Go for the feeling, okay? Energy vampires draining you of your energy. Right. But how does that make you feel? Again, go for the feeling. People pleasing, unfair, hurt. Fair enough. Okay. So all of you who've mentioned out absolutely everything, go with that feeling, go with that situation. Okay. So the connected situation with the feeling. And close your eyes once again. So, for example, someone mentioned sadness and the situation was abandoned. Okay. focus on the sadness. Similarly, whatever other emotion it is that you've mentioned in the chat box, focus on your emotion, okay, as you're taking deep breaths. Continue with your deep breaths, don't stop them. As you're focusing on the emotion, as you're allowing yourself to experience that emotion. So, continuing with the previous examples, sadness and abandonment, check where in your entire body are you feeling that sadness the most, okay? For some of you, it could be multiple parts of your body. That's fine. Narrow it down to one part where you feel the intensity to be the highest, where you feel the intensity to be maximum. Okay. And once you've identified that part, keep breathing in that specific part. So, for example, the sadness, you've identified it in the head, in the forehead region to be specific. Deep breaths, breathe in the entire forehead region. Okay? Take your time. Continue to focus on that specific part. Now that you've identified that specific part with the connected emotion, go for the situation that you also identified. So the situation was abandonment, for example. For others, whatever the situation was, somebody said not being able to communicate, someone mentioned, something else, whatever the situation was, okay? Slowly focus on the situation. As you're focusing on the situation, the emotion and the part in your body where you can feel the energy of that emotion. As I count from 3 down to 0, you're going to inform your own self, each one of you, mentally, that you're going to call forward that part within each one of you, whatever age he or she is from the past, that's getting adversely affected because of whatever that emotion it is you're feeling in that part of your body and the connected situation with the emotion. So, going forward with the previous example, calling forward that inner child that was feeling sadness, put forward your emotion in that place. In that situation where the inner child felt abandoned, put forward your situation that you identified and feeling the energy of that sadness in the forehead. Put forward your body part. As I count from 3 down to 0, let's call forward for each one of us what that specific aspect, inner child version it is from the past that's coming in front of us. 3, 2, 1, 0. Now. And slowly, each one of you, you'll either get an idea, a recollection, a flashback, some memory, some image, some version of you from the past that will crop up. Okay, it can be a sensation, a visual, a thought, a feeling, an amalgamation of any of these. Whatever it is that you're able to sense, feel, get a visual of, or a combination of this. Allow it to just come up to the surface today. Okay? And just go up to that version today. So, as the adult, just go up to that version. See how that version is appearing. Go by your sensation, go by your feeling. What's the visual like? What's the version wearing? How old is the version? What's happening to the version? What's the facial expression like? What's the body language like of that version? Take a mental note of that, okay? And go ahead and talk with your version today. Thank your version. So say thank you. Thank you so much for coming forward and being a part of this today, for helping me take the first step, for helping us get awareness and heal together. See what he or she is expressing, communicating, stating out to you. See what he or she is talking about, sharing. Keep a mental note of that. If he or she is not saying anything, is completely silent, is acting stubborn, is becoming defensive, that's also completely fine. It's okay. It just means that your version needs more time and trust. Okay? That's also fine. Inform your version that I apologize for not being there for you earlier on. Just state that to your version. That I'm so sorry that I could not come in earlier, that I could not address you earlier. But now I'm there. Now I'm going to ensure that we work on this collectively. See what your version is saying. See how your version is reacting. Don't forget with your deep breaths. Continue them, please. And based on whatever it is that your version is stating, expressing, communicating out to you, tell your version it's now time to finally heal, release. So, whatever that situation is, because of which your version is feeling that emotion, let your version now express out in that situation. So, for example, if it's abandonment, call forward that individual that made you feel that sense of abandonment. If it is sadness, call forward that situation in that and the individual in that situation that made you feel sad. If it's anger, call forward the individual you're angry towards. Okay. Once that individual is in front of you, express this out to that person. So I am angry, for example, or I feel really sad, or I feel really abandoned. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if the other individual doesn't understand. Doesn't matter if the other individual doesn't express that the way you want to. Today, you're taking a step forward for your inner child. You're taking a step forward for your inner child that needs that sense of healing. And inform that individual that this, in whatever body part you were feeling that sadness, you were feeling that loneliness, whatever it was that you were feeling, for example, here in the head, inform that individual, I don't wish to experience this anymore. I choose to release it totally, completely, fully today. Just breathe it all out. Give that energy back to that individual. that you've experienced, that your inner child experienced in that situation. And finally, take back within yourself your true, authentic energy that's finally finding its way within you. Once you've released this all out, but again, take your time. See what is it that you're getting back within you finally. Your energy, how is it appearing? What's the texture like? What's the color like? How is it making you finally feel? And breathe that in within you, within yourself, and allow it to complete you today. And finally, as your inner child is allowing himself or herself to heal, see what's the shift, what's the transformation that's coming within him or her. Thank them. Let them continue to experience that sense of transformation. If you need to repeat this, help your inner child release out more. For those of you who feel that your inner child is still intense, you can repeat the last part where you're helping your inner child release and then taking the sense of healing and then allow your inner child to heal. For those of you who feel that your inner child has released out successfully everything and is ready to integrate, as I count from 1 to 3, help your inner child heal finally. And then integrate post healing. 1, 2, 3. And once you feel, you can sense that your inner child is healed, has integrated completely within you, breathe in the energies of your healed inner child, help your inner child grow from that specific situation finally that he or she was stuck up in to the current you, but this time with your true authentic energy, your energy of awareness, insight, and understanding. And when that is complete, you can slowly open your eyes, but take your time, there is no hurry. So I'm just going to wait for 1 more minute for those of you who have any questions, for those of you who need more clarity, for those of you who want to experience and share your experience as well. This is so powerful. My inner child is safe now and loved. Great. Thank you so much. This is really good. Thank you. Thank you for allowing yourself. Will this be on again next week? We are going to, I'm going to plan more on-site sessions here in JLT so that it's more one-to-one. So you can try and come in then as well. And we'll try and do more online inner child healing sessions as well. That was a good crying session. It's good that you've allowed your inner child to vent and express out, certainly. Any more sessions? Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm doing a lot more sessions. You can connect in with me personally as well, since I'm here at the center, and you can also do it online, whatever makes you feel more comfortable. Very interesting. Thank you. You're most welcome. Yes, for sure, you can replay it as many times as you want to. Um, I wasn't quite sure after the people who caused this emotion, after we told them how we felt, what were we supposed to do with them after? It really depends on who those people are. Some people, after they've vented out to those specific concerned people, those people that they were affected with tend to go out by themselves. If that's the case, that's great. If they still tend to stay put, you can ask them to move out. So it really depends who those people are, how much intensity is it that they've affected you, and what role they play in your life. I felt like crying in between. That's completely fine. Allow yourself to express, vent, release. That's completely fine. This is also live on Facebook, so you can look us up. You can look me up, Zinnia Bhorucho on the Illuminations page, Facebook. You can see the entire live video as many times as you want to. And if you still feel you want to connect in, you can connect in with me personally as well. You're most welcome, everybody. Thank you so much. Is anybody having any other question? Please let me know. And with that, I am going to end this. I'll wait for one last minute and post that I'll end it. Any other questions? Facebook, yes, it's on our Facebook Illuminations page. So just search Illuminations, and in that, look me up, Zinnia Bhorucho, you will see this live. Okay. Most welcome, everybody. Have a great evening. Take care. All right, everybody. I'm going to end this here. Bye-bye.